Are you in crypto for exactly the same reasons that I'm in crypto? Well, what would that be? What I like about it is the shortened investment cycle from the bottom to the top. That complete bottom was 15th of December 2018 at Bitcoin hitting under $3,200. Yet that was 1 year later after it reaching almost $20,000. Just 2 years later, it was $30,000, and recently in April, hit above $64,000. So in the investment world, we describe this as volatility. Now, some people absolutely hate volatility. I like volatility. If you look at those numbers, imagine if you time the bottom, and almost nobody does time the bottom, and it's okay. So imagine you missed the bottom and you bought Bitcoin at $4,000 and you missed its recent high and you just decided to sell at $40,000. Can you think of very many other places that you can invest and have those kind of returns? So that's one of the reasons that I love crypto. Well, what are the other reasons? Second to that first reason, the tech radically flattens hurdles. These are the hurdles that keep the lower classes from becoming the upper classes. See, I'm passionate about the idea that somebody, no matter their background, whether they come from a wealthy household, a middle class household, or a lower class household, that through hard work, personal education, and personal development, I love the idea that they can accomplish whatever their dreams and hard work and education level, not formal education, but them working and developing themselves, can help them reach. And crypto helps flatten those hurdles so that they can achieve that kind of thing. See, one of the hard things with the stock markets in many of the countries around the world is that you have to have a financial advisor, and you had to, for many years, have Solomon Smith and Barney or somebody, and they wouldn't even take you on as a client unless you had a certain amount of wealth. And today, with all the fiat gateways, you can invest in crypto without a financial advisor, and you can be trying to make the decisions yourself. Now, there's good and bad to that. The good thing is that, before it used to be Solomon Smith and Barney or some big investment firm wouldn't take you unless you had $100,000 of assets for them to manage or more. Number two, they were very selective on what assets they would place you in, and so the kind of returns that you can make in crypto wasn't really even available there. However, with that volatility comes the opportunity to lose huge amounts of money. And you see many people in crypto losing huge amounts of money, then wanting to blame it on other people. That is the problem with volatility. If you buy at, say, the top of almost $20,000 and then you panic sell and sell at $3,200, you lost massive amounts of money. So with the opportunity to make money comes the opportunity to lose money. And that's part of the game. That's the trade-off that you're making. And this is why so many of us in the space always say, do not invest money that you are not willing to lose. We are not financial advisors. I'm not a financial advisor. Maybe other people out there are. I'm just an investor myself. I'm here because of, reason number one and reason number two. See, I didn't grow up in a rich family. I grew up possibly, you could say, lower middle class, but lower middle class from the standpoint of we never went without food to eat. And I understand that there are many people around the world that did go without food to eat, that maybe they only got to eat every couple of days. So I'm blessed to say that that was not the case. Although I joke with some friends that we were too poor for Kool-Aid, because we were twice a month or once a month, my mom would allow us to get 2 packages of the generic brand of Kool-Aid because we couldn't afford the other stuff. And so then we would decide when to drink that, and we savored every sip of it. So, what's good about being born into those circumstances or even lower is it can create in you a hunger for something better and a hunger for options. And that hunger often leads you to the personal growth and development it takes to accumulate massive wealth. And it has very little to do with luck accumulating massive wealth, because even say you were lucky enough to buy Doge at a fraction of a cent and then it goes to 72 cents and you had put $1,000 into it and now it's $150,000. So you make that money, but then often people who don't grow themselves don't spend that money wisely, and 2 years later they end up in the exact same circumstances. So one of the things I'm passionate about is people learning to think like investors. Now, investors think about living off of less than what we make so that we can accumulate more assets, that then those assets work for us. See, in life, we can spend time and trade time for money, which often when you're poor, that's all you can do while you continue to grow yourself and educate yourself so that your time at least is more valuable, so that then you can take a portion of the money that you make and invest that in other things so that now you have time and money working for you. One of the things I love about cryptocurrency is with relatively small investments, you can make that money work for you. Though the smarter you are and the more you learn to make good investments, the better it does for you. So, what are my predictions as to what we have ahead? Well, just know that these are my guesses. I tend to be a good guesser, but like I always say, I'm not always right. I'm just often right. And for me, that's been good enough, and my portfolio has done well. So how do I guess that will play out? Well, why don't we look back at my own past guessing since I started this channel? And I'm going to share that with you. 100% transparency with this. Let's see. All right, here we have my channel. And when I first started making videos, some of the ones I called, we're going to go through these and let's see how they've done in that time period. Maybe we'll have some fun with this. So Nex, or Nash Exchange, was one of the ones I've been passionate about, and I like that you could stake your tokens on their exchange and that you could earn some of the income that they earn from fees. See, that ties into the passive income idea that I'm always so passionate about. Now, how has this one worked out? Not nearly as well as I would have hoped. So if we click on this video, we'll see I made this December 13th. Let's go to Nash Exchange back to December 13th, and we will find that it was trading at $1.23. Right after that, though, wow, look at this. That did terrible, and then it did really well. And then it's been doing not so great since then. So actually it is right about where it was. In fact, a little bit below of where it was 6 months ago. Now, they haven't got much traction on this, and it's a disappointment. Now, if you had some tokens staked on there, you could have earned little bits amounts of income that probably you would be at about a break even. But let's just say this one has not turned out that great. Now, if you did not stake it and therefore you were not locked up, you could have traded it and you could have made a nice return that you could have doubled your money. Now, I like returns that do much better than doubling my money. So this one, I don't love how it's done. I hope that they do some things that make it go further. I have not sold my position in this. I literally have those tokens staked, earning passive income, and that passive income is not very high because their trading volume on the exchange hasn't done tremendously. So on this one, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this, as far as my own portfolio and how it's done, I would give it a solid 2. Populous, let's look at this one. I made this video on the 14th of December, and let's see, 14th of December, the price was at 26 cents. Now, this went all the way to $7.13 and has since retraced to $2.45. So if you had bought here and did not sell, now what's great about this is I did not lock up any of my tokens here in any way, shape, or form, and I was selling them as they were going up, and so I got tremendous returns. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would have to say that this did a 9 for me, and I was very happy with how this did. I did not have any tokens left, unfortunately, at the very end, and I continued to sell on the way up and rolled into some other things. So let's go back. So that one was a solid 9 from my standpoint and opinion. Do I still believe in buying this? I am buying none of this right now at these prices. I was really interested in it at the prices that it was at. At today's prices, even with that retracement, I'm not buying more PPT. Injected protocol, I did this on the 23rd of December, and let's look at how Injective has done. 23rd of December, $3.94. It went all the way up to $22, and now is about double, little over double, where I talked about it at. Now, this one, I did take profits on it as it went up, and currently I hold no Injective. I did buy some more back somewhere around here and then sold it as it went up because I needed to roll it into other things. Now, I do like this one. I do like this one at this price, and I'm considering picking up some more, but there are so many things I'm interested in these days because everything is on sale, including Injective. So I don't know if I'll get around to this, though it is one of the ones I like. All right, so let's look at what else I was covering. SXP or Swipe, I covered on 8th of January, and that was a very attractive price. 8th of January at 95 cents, and it went all the way up to 5.50. Now it is since retraced and is trading at about double what it was back then. You're seeing a lot of patterns. How is this done? I would give this one a 7 or 8. The Injective, actually, I would give an 8 or a 9. And so it's done pretty well. Let's look at what else we have here. SXP, Kasha. Kasha is an interesting one. One was the first one I covered. Okay, 28th of January. Now this one had just had a pump and then a retracement. So at 7.5 cents. Now I did sell as this doubled, and I did not hold on to this long term. In fact, I sold at first half my position when it doubled, went up a little bit more. I sold all of it. Now I did miss out on some money. It did do a big retrace, and then it went up even higher. The reason is some India FUD has come out that, again, they're trying to ban Bitcoin. And even though Kasha is, getting some banks, requiring some banks, and my understanding at the time was possibly even in the U.S., what I found is it was difficult to continue to get information on Kasha because so much of the information was not in a language I understand. Speak Spanish, English, and some French, and so I just couldn't get the information, and so I was very happy with its returns. I'd give it on a scale of 1 to 10 like a 5, and definitely exited with some nice profit on Kasha. All right, what else were we looking at back then? On-chain. Now, this is one of my long-term favorites. I have not been swing trading this one. I've been long-term holding this one, and I was buying it long before I talked about it. In fact, during the bear market, it was even a lot cheaper than here. But this video, if we look at the date, is the 31st of January. And so the 31st of January here was at 41 cents. And it went all the way up to $2.47. So essentially a 6x. Now it's retraced, and now it's approximately a 2x from where it was at. That same pattern we're seeing again. Now this one, I did not take any profits on the way up. I still continue to hold this one. I have 100% of it now in Zookeeper, which is correlated with WanSwap, where I have it farming passive income for me. So I make money every day on this. And this does make up a good percentage of my holdings. As far as altcoins, this and Cardano are my two biggest altcoin holdings, Cardano being the largest. And let me share with you, why don't we look at that? Because Cardano, I've been a big believer in for forever. Well, before we get to Cardano, let's talk about Wabi. Now, this is another one out of India that I do not continue to own. I did buy it because it was so cheap. So the 3rd of February, I was extremely interested in it because of how relatively inexpensive I found it and its market cap versus what it had been previously. And it had amazing gains, almost 8x from here. And I did take profits as it went parabolic, because parabolic is almost always followed by this. And so even if you continued to hold it, but you did get it at, say, 18 cents, then you're still doing okay, but it's retraced to about what your acquisition price was if you missed the chance to sell here. Now, you do find it kind of bottoming out, and this rounded curve here, maybe it's going to pump. Do I currently hold any Wabi? I don't. If it did even bigger retraces from here, I would consider buying some more. I just, again, have had a hard time getting updates on this, as most of the updates are in a language that I do not understand. All right, on to one of my very favorites, which is Cardano. Now, I had covered this multiple times, and actually, I think I even covered it in December, but we're just going to look at the date of this video, February 4th. February 4th, it was at 44 cents. Now, how was Cardano done? It went all the way to 229 and has since retraced and is about 4x from there. So it's done phenomenal. Though Cardano has been one of my longest holdings. I started buying it after the huge retraces of it peaking in early 2018 when it went to $1.40. When I think I made my first purchase when it retraced to 20 cents. If it wasn't there, it was definitely at 12 cents. And then as it went under 10 cents, I continued to buy all the way down to buying near the bottom. I think it bottomed out at about 1.7 cents. So this one continues to be a strong performer. It is near, talking about guesses, let's talk about some guesses for Cardano. Now, the greatest time to buy was here. And while we're talking about making life-changing wealth through crypto, why don't we talk about the elephant in the room, which is when you buy makes all the difference. Am I still buying now and investing now? Yes, but my guess is we're halfway through the bull run. Now, it could be, if you watch this video, the bull run lasts all the way till the 28th of May, which it seems, according to Benjamin Cohen, he did a really good analysis on this, that the cycles are elongating and flattening. And so there's not as much appreciation from bottom to top every cycle. And it seems like even though the halving happens every 3 years and 8 months or 3 years and 10 months, that perhaps the peak happens longer than that. So the cycle itself is elongating from bottom to top. And so it could be, I did some math on how much of an increase we saw from bottom here to top here over the previous time, and drew out, did some math that suggested maybe that we peak out in the 28th of May next year. Now, do I know what's going to happen? No. Every cycle plays out differently. Benjamin Cohen was right as he did an analysis on the cycles elongating. With that in mind, I did some math to get my best guess on when it could happen. And so I'm open to that. I had been thinking that we would more likely see a peak around September or October of this year. I did not expect, though, so much pump so early in the year. I thought we would have a littler pump, and then we would have more of a flattened uptrend followed by a parabolic move. And so what we saw is a bigger pump followed by a bigger retracement, more along the lines of what we saw in 2013. If you look at this big pump and then big retracement. And then from July, it then went parabolic in October and hit some really, really big numbers of increases. So maybe it plays out more like 2013 in general, but it could be that it plays out with a longer cycle overall. That would be good news, meaning that this accumulation phase might be longer. And so for those that are only able to put in a little bit of money every 2 weeks or every month as you make money from your day job, well, then it gives you more time to ride more of this cycle, right? So that part's exciting. How do I think Cardano is going to play out? Well, let me just talk about the short term with this. I've done some other videos on that I think Cardano will hit $1 trillion market cap by the end of this bull run. And that would put its price at a little over $30. Do I know that that's going to happen? No, that's my guess. I do not know that. I do not have a magic crystal ball. The reason I think it could happen is one of the bases for that is that markets are irrational in the short term. They're a lot more rational in the long term, but peaks often overboom and busts usually overbust. And so with an overboom, it is highly possible that it hits a valuation it should never hit, and yet it still does. I frequently use the case of Ripple, that in 2017, that cycle, Ripple hit prices it never should have hit, bringing its total market cap to over $100 billion. Followed by then a really big retracement, but it should have never hit so much, yet it did. And so if Ripple last cycle could hit that kind of value, as the Alonzo hard fork comes out for Cardano and smart contract capabilities hit, and all these projects are now developing on Cardano, and many of the projects that had built on Ethereum then used the bridge to build on Cardano, there's going to be a lot of hype about it. And that hype is going to peak out in the short term somewhere around this date. Now, this is assuming that Alonzo stays on track, and I put that for 3 months out from here on September 1st, being that we're at June 1st. Now, often these dates get pushed back, and that's okay. But from here to there, we could see a massive appreciation cycle. And where could it go? Well, I have this previous Fibonacci retracement graph drawn here. Now we've retraced all the way back to the 61.8 level, or right near it, and then have come up. We could still see some retracement, but then we're likely going to have some consolidation and a big run. And that big run could take us to over $5 in this shorter term before or right around this date. Now, if you've been in crypto for a while, you know that often they say, buy the news, sell the event, right? Or buy the rumor, sell the news, which essentially means buy early when there's a lot of anticipation building for something. When that event actually happens is when a lot of people then sell, right? And it's on to the next hype cycle on something else. And so we could get a parabolic move coming up here, followed by a retracement, and it could hit as high as over $5 in the medium term. Now, if we have all the way till May, then we could see even much higher numbers in general, and it would have to go completely parabolic here, realize, to get over this $30. But that is a possibility. Now, when I decide what I'm doing for my own investment purposes, even when I have such high predictions like that, what I do not do is keep 100% of mine for that end, because I don't know. And probably sell point one for me is around $5 to $6, just a small amount of my Cardano. I'll be taking some profits there because I feel like it'll hit much higher than that, but I don't know. Who knows what could happen? So when it does, I'm very satisfied with some of the profits from there. Be taking a little bit. As it hits higher markers close to $10 and $15, I will be selling much more of what I have. And then probably I will have just a little bit left if it continues going parabolic, like I feel like it could, all the way to $30, then I would have just a small fraction left riding till the end, right? And that would be not only to the moon, that would be to Mars if it hits $1 trillion market cap for Cardano. Is that possible? It is, only because markets are irrational, and a lot of times in the short term behavior is irrational. And so the value there, I don't know that the value for it to hit it in the short term is there. Long term, well, it depends on how much of Charles Hoskinson's vision comes to fruition. And we don't know exactly how that will play out. So that's just some of my thoughts on where it could go, and whether it will, who knows. But I tried to give you a feel for some of my predictions and where things have been and where things have gone. So one of the great things is you can go back in the history and see how it's done, and you'll find out that I'm not always right. I'm just often right, like I always say. I am an investor myself. I've been doing investing in general for 20 years. Crypto I've only been doing for 4 years now, since 2017. So I am really good at pattern recognition. And in my day job, up until I retired recently, I was an acquisition manager that I managed the acquisitions for an investment company, and I helped them make good buys. Pattern recognition tends to help you make good buys. And so pattern recognition is what I'm good at. And it's a big reason why I frequently look at these patterns. Now, the whole reason technical analysis plays out at all, it shouldn't, but it does, because human emotions tend to lead us as humans to act in ways that are somewhat predictable. Not completely predictable, just somewhat predictable, which is why technical analysis works at all. Now, one of the ways that you do really well in crypto is learning to understand how your body wants you to think, and then learning to listen to that, but then not necessarily follow it. Really good example here is that people who are investing in crypto, when do they tend to buy? They tend to buy after massive pumps. So right here, they tend to buy when things are going crazy. This was 2017. And what happens is they hear about something, and it's about the 7th time that they hear about it that they start taking it serious, or we as human beings start taking it serious. So they've heard about Bitcoin, they passed on it, they passed on it, they passed on it. Now they're hearing so many people make so much money. So when do they buy? Right as Bitcoin crosses like $14,000, they start buying, only to have bought at the top, and then there's this big retracement. Now here's what a lot of people do. In fact, 95% of them, they then sold at a loss and left the market. When was the great time to buy? Here. Now, then it you know, it pumped up, it came back. Some people, as it was pumping up, this is when they then entered. Then when it dipped down here, they were scared to death with coronavirus and the big stock sell-off that happened here, that they were scared and they sold off some of their crypto again. And this is why people make or lose money in crypto time and time again. Now, how do you not lose money in crypto? Well, that's what I talk about frequently on this channel. It really is a change of mindset. Do keep in mind, again, this isn't financial advice. I'm not sharing with you exactly what fish to fish for. I do share with you what I'm fishing for. And the bigger goal is to share with you how to think about things. Now, I didn't invent any of these lines of thinking. I can't take credit for them. These come from other people. And as I was learning to think like an investor, because in the school, they don't teach us this, I was reading lots of books to think like an investor so that I could make smarter investments in my life, because though I started out pretty relatively poor and broke in life, I did not want to finish out that way because, well, when you're broke, you don't have a lot of options. And what money does bring you is not necessarily happiness, but it does bring you lots of options. And what I wanted is more options in my life. And I was willing to work hard and learn and grow myself so that I could try to have more options. Does that make sense? All right. So here we're at here. When do people not often buy? When this big pullback happens, they often don't buy here. Now, could it pull back further? It could. It could come all the way down to 20,000, and people would be calling for the end of Bitcoin. Since I've been in crypto, 4 years now, I've probably heard that this is the end of Bitcoin 7 different times by major news outlets, and yet it hasn't happened. In fact, when they do it, it's usually a pretty good indication for me to buy more. So even though it's had this nice pullback, I did make some entries here. I do have some on the sidelines in case it dips down further and comes down to a super attractive price. Do that I know that it will? I don't. So what I do is I tier my buys. When we have a nice big pullback like this, I deploy some of my capital to buy. And then if it pulls back further, I deploy some more, because you don't know where the bottom is. And then my guess is that even if there is another big pullback, then the market kind of bottoms out, and then we start to resume, we continue the bull market that we're already in. At least that's my guess of where the bull market is. Now, notice on these previous bull markets, we hit this trend line. Depending on where we are in this timeline, and say we hit the trend line, it could be anywhere from 130,000 all the way up to, based on how this line is drawn, like 180,000. It could go above that. Remember, in the short term, markets are often irrational. So where could Bitcoin hit this cycle? Could hit numbers that are completely irrational. If it follows this trend line exactly, it's not going to break 200,000, at least this cycle. And the reason I look so much at Bitcoin, even though many of my holdings are in altcoins, because that gives me an idea of when, because what happens with Bitcoin is highly relative to altcoins. The reason I'm mostly in altcoins over Bitcoin is because they are more volatile. And volatility can be a fantastic thing in a general uptrend and a disastrous thing in a downtrend. So my hope with these altcoins is that I'll be taking profits on them as I feel like we're getting nearer to the end of the bull run. All right, I want to thank all of you for joining me. It's been a pleasure sharing with you my thoughts. I hope it's been valuable to you. And thanks for joining me. If you give this video a like, it really helps me continue to grow this channel so that I can continue to devote the time to share with you my thoughts on what's going on in crypto. Now, I will be moving coming up pretty soon in the next month, relocating, and then I'll probably get an office set up so that I can continue making videos. Who knows, during that time I might just use my laptop with a camera. That's going to be an interesting time. I am going to the Bitcoin conference coming up in the next few days, so I'll try to make some videos with my phone while I'm there, just to share with you what I'm learning and what's going on. I do hope, or my hope and vision with this channel was to give you insights, how I think about things as somebody with an investment background, as well as I was hoping as the channel grows and we have more subscribers and more likes on the videos, that would give me reach to the different projects so that I can bring you more direct information from the teams that manage the projects out there that I'm interested in, that maybe you're interested in too. And hopefully you've been enjoying all the video interviews that I've been bringing you. Now, some of the ones in the past 2 weeks, these are videos that are projects that have not launched yet. This is one of the best times I feel to research them, is before they're available. and so that you get a feel for the projects, the project teams who are out there. Now, as the channel continues to grow, it'll make it easier for me to reach the top projects out there. Like, I would love to speak with Gavin Woods of Polkadot. I would love to speak with Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX. I would love to speak to many of these, and maybe I'll get the chance in the near future. Thank you for helping me continue to grow the network so I can reach out to these projects and have them come on the channel and speak to you. I do not do videos, though, with projects that I am completely uninterested in. And so, you know, the ones that I am bringing to you are ones that I'm interested in, that I am invested in or will be investing in or want to invest in. One of those three. Some of these ones that haven't come out yet, I have no option to invest in them yet, and I'm waiting just like you are to buy. Some of them come to me from my network of people that I know that are insiders that know the up and coming projects and have created some connections for me with them behind the scenes, and I appreciate them. You know who you are if you're watching this video. Appreciate all those connections to all these great projects that are coming out. Some of the projects that come out in the next 3 to 4 or 5 months will be projects that will be around with us 20 years from now. The hard thing is telling which ones will be those, and that's what I'm sifting through, trying to make my best decisions as to what I'm interested in investing in myself, and also interested in sharing with all of you. So thanks for joining me, and we will see you next time.
Success is falling, flowing like rain. The timing's right, we're getting paid. Come on, Rainmakers, let's make this happen.